It is clear that Governor Quinn has yet to persuade lawmakers that voting to extend an income tax hike makes sense in an election year. A short time ago, I spoke with Chicago Sun-Times Springfield Bureau Chief Dave McKinney. I began by asking him about Governor Quinn's efforts to convince fellow Democrats to back his plan.
Well, the governor went into the evening in a closed-door meeting with the House Democratic Caucus, 71 members in there. And basically, he went in with a copy of the state constitution and spent a lot of time talking about the education article in there that talks about how we fund our schools, and said that, look, this is going to be where we hit first if we don't get this income tax extension passed. And, you know, his reception there generally was, you know, the reports afterwards that not many minds were changed. You know, of course, everybody in the House of Representatives is up for re-election this fall. And so that's where, you know, a lot of people are very hesitant about taking a tax vote. So, you know, I think he realizes he has a lot left to do. The House Speaker, Michael Madigan, came out and, you know, he said that we were, you know, a significant number of votes away from 60 that they need in the House. So I think we're going to see action. If we see action, I think it's going to be next week.
Do you think they can get to 60? Because how many Democrats are there? 72, is that right?
There's 71 House 71. Democrats. But a lot of those guys are, and women are you know, they'll be targets, so they won't vote on a tax increase. There are probably 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 of those. Many of them live on the borders. Those guys are also hesitant to vote because, of course, you know, their districts butt up against states that have, you know, competitive tax rates. So he's got a long way to go.
So do Democrats have a plan B in case this doesn't succeed? They don't get those 60 votes?
Well, you know what? I asked Speaker Madigan that very question. What is your plan B? And the Speaker said, well, you know, we're not going to talk about a plan B because we're going to focus on the 60 votes. You know, I mean, honestly, it looks to me like it could be a situation being set up here with Madigan kind of tamping down everybody's expectations here. It might be something where they wind up, you know, putting up a tax vote on the board here in the House, having it go down possibly, and then they take this into the summer and the fall. And you know, it could be an issue that might drive people to the polls. I mean, certainly those who are dependent upon state funding are going to be motivated, potentially, to come out and vote for this.
Well, one way Democrats are trying to soften the blow is to come up with this feature of a $500 property tax refund. What's going on with that proposal?
Well, that was the brainchild of Speaker Madigan, and of course, Governor Quinn put it in his budget address. There's been very little talk here in the Capitol about, you know, including that. I mean, I think there's some hesitance that, you know, this is a program that's got, you know, a $700 or $800 million price tag attached to it. As of yesterday, Speaker Madigan, you know, he clearly is tying that to the tax extension. But I think that there is, you know, a lot of hesitance, even among Democrats, who would just as soon not see the $700 million spent on this, and rather would see it, you know, spent on schools or whatever. You know, you can understand the appeal, though, of Madigan and Quinn of giving everybody you know, a tax check in the mail before the election. I mean, that's clearly you know, you score points that way. But I'm not sure that there's great support for that either here.
So Republicans in Springfield are on record saying they're completely against this, and they have floated the idea of putting the whole notion of a tax making this tax hike permanent by way of a public referendum. What's the latest on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's a press conference story. I don't think that that's seriously going to go anywhere in either the House or the Senate, because the Speaker and the Senate President have no interest in that, I don't believe. You know, and it's also a response to an issue that we saw passed today in the Illinois House. There was an increase, or a move by Speaker Madigan to put an advisory referendum on the ballot in the fall on the minimum wage. So I think this is the answer the Republicans are having. If Madigan can do it on the minimum wage, well, why can't we do it on the income tax extension?
Well, Governor Quinn's challenger, Bruce Rauner, has put out a bunch of robocalls recently. Tell us what who those robocalls were aimed at.
Well, that happened today. There were 7 Democrats in the House whose districts were flooded with these phone calls, and basically the Rauner camp said that you know, it features Bruce Rauner's voice on there, and the people, you know, he says these, you know, call your state rep, let them know that we don't want to, you know, we don't want to see the income tax extended permanently. You know, the funny thing about this, though, is that all these House Democrats pretty much already are on record as being against the income tax extension. So, you know, I had one of them today, Marty Moylan, in Des Plaines, say, you know, Bruce, thanks for the name ID. It saved me several $1,000s.
And finally, there's some news on the initiative to come up with a fair legislative map. What happened?
Well, I mean, since the petition was, all the petitions that they gathered, more than hundreds of thousands were gathered and turned into the State Board of Elections. The people at the State Board have been going through those and taking a sampling, about 25,000 signatures, and throwing those up against the voter registration rolls and seeing if they're valid signatures or not. And so, in the last day or so, they have turned these, the results of their studying over to the group that's pushing this. And basically, it probably is a little bit of cause for concern for them, because out of the 25,000 signatures the State Board analyzed, about 11,000 of those were deemed admissible. And so the way the law works here, the people who are pushing the amendment have time to try to go and validate these signatures and prove that somebody's scribble on a nominating petition was really, the name of the person that, is registered to vote at that address. But I would think that they've got a little cause for concern here, that the State Board is saying that at the current moment you don't have enough signatures. That's going to be decided in July eventually, whether they get on the ballot or not.
Dave McKinney, thanks very much for the updates. We appreciate it.
Thanks much.